In the early 2000s, if you had a pulse, you could buy a house. Well, the husband and I each had a pulse, so we bought houses. Lots and lots of houses. Between 2003 to around 2008, we bought over 30 fixer-uppers, and out of all of those homes, 28 of them were foreclosures. Well, hello, this is Wendy Pinnell, and foreclosures are here. The numbers are growing, and today we're going to talk about those numbers, and I'm going to tell you exactly how you can buy one. Oh, and stick around to the end because we're going to go over the foreclosure numbers in real time right here in Dallas. Well, Attom Data Solutions reports that U.S. foreclosure activity in January continues to increase annually for 21 consecutive months. In their January foreclosure report, they showed that there were a total of 31,557 foreclosure filings, which is up 36% from a year ago. They expressed their concern that the uptick in overall foreclosure filings points towards a trend that may suggest more increased activity is on the horizon. Well, just as Van Thompson describes, no one likes to think about economic turmoil and the tragedy of people losing their homes. However, that being said, he comments that one family's tragedy can be your family's gain if you choose to buy a home in foreclosure. He reports that foreclosed homes are, on average, about 28% less than other homes. National Association of Realtors chimed in on that as well. They said foreclosures sell for about a 20% discount compared to conventional sales. But that's an average. Many sell for much bigger discounts. Now let's put that in real numbers. If you're buying a home for $400,000, by thinking outside of the box and buying a foreclosure, you can walk in the door with $80,000 in equity. I could totally go for $80,000. Wait, what are foreclosures again? Elizabeth Weintraub explains that foreclosures are homes that a bank has foreclosed on and now carries in its inventory. Basically, if a homeowner gets behind on their loan payments, the bank can seize the home and resell it. Now, buying a foreclosed home is different and riskier, but it's not that much more complicated than buying a traditional home. It's more work for the realtor, so you need to use an experienced one. But for the buyer, it's more that you have to be flexible. It's probably gonna take a little more time, and you have to be willing to see the diamond in the rough. Now, if you're gonna buy a foreclosed home, your first step number one, is to find one. Now, I've got some great news for you on this front. By and large, foreclosed homes are gonna be listed in the MLS right alongside all the other homes. The bank usually wants to have, the greatest exposure possible, right? So they're gonna list it where everyone else is looking. Now, you'll generally find those same foreclosure listings on each individual website, and they might show up there first. So if you wanna be, like the early bird that gets the worm, we've listed several of those websites in the description section. Now, step number two, your second step after finding a foreclosure is you're gonna wanna take a look at it, right? Yeah. Well, if you're going to see a house that's been foreclosed on, you need to prepare yourself mentally for what you're gonna find. First of all, the home's going to be vacant with utilities off, so bring a powerful flashlight, okay? Something stronger than your cell phone, right? Secondly, it's probably not gonna be in great condition. Investopedia says it well. They say, after all, if the owner can't make the payments, they're likely falling behind on paying for regular upkeep. So don't be too put off if the home is dirty, or it smells from being closed up for too long. Remember, no one's been living in this home since it's been foreclosed on, and it's quite possible the family moved out long before the actual foreclosure. The walls are probably dirty. You might find, pencil or coloring marks, or maybe there are holes, right? The carpet's probably stained. Listen, it's going to look lived in because the previous owners didn't have any motivation to clean it when they moved out. Now, for you to visualize this, it might help to look around your home now, okay? You probably have some things you've been meaning to fix and haven't gotten to yet. And unless you're Martha Stewart, you probably have your share of dirty walls and dirty bathtubs, okay? Picture if you put your home up for sale at this very minute without cleaning it at all. That's what many foreclosures will look like, okay? So, remember that $80,000 in equity? Well, be prepared that may come wrapped in a not so pretty package. Okay, so you've survived the showings. You've managed to visualize a diamond in the rough, and you're ready to make an offer. Let's get to the good part. All right, step number 3 is submitting an offer. Now, this is where foreclosures are a little different. There's not going to be a seller's disclosure for you. Texas law doesn't require foreclosures to have a seller's disclosure. Plus, you'll be signing a lot more forms than you would with a regular home purchase. I mean, you might even feel like you're just like signing your life away. Now, on top of that, you'll find the offer process and option period are quite a bit more rigid than a traditional sale, okay? Banks will often demand a specific amount of earnest money and specific details for the option period as well. Sometimes there isn't even an option fee at all, okay? They're gonna give you an inspection period and it's not up to you or how much you offer for an option fee. Now, you can expect them to tell you exactly how to submit your offer, what kind of financing they'll accept, and they will probably require that you include proof of funds for your earnest money with your offer. In fact, it's pretty common for them to require this to be a copy of an earnest money check included, sometimes even a cashier's check. Now, don't expect to include things like home sale contingencies, okay? I have seen them assist with closing costs, but just in general, the cleaner and simpler the offer, the better. Now, all of these things may or may not be the case with the foreclosure home you're looking at, okay? Because here's the thing, foreclosures are owned in different ways, and the way you submit an offer will depend on who owns it, okay? So how do you tell the difference? Well, according to Forbes, a bank-owned property is property owned by a lender, like a bank or credit union, or government entity like Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, okay? Now with bank foreclosures, right, each bank can be hugely different in how to submit an offer, whether they'll consider any repairs or whether or not the sale is as is, okay? It could be large bank like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, or it could even be like small banks you've never heard of. Now, another completely different type of foreclosure is HUD homes, okay? These are homes that had FHA financing and were foreclosed on, right? Well, since FHA financing is government backed, HUD is owned by the government as well. So submitting offers on HUD homes, very different, okay? Now here's something really important you need to know. HUD wants homeowners, not investors. So even though it's a government entity, you may find they'll do things to prioritize bringing on what they call an owner occupant. Well, when you're offering on a HUD home, you're gonna start off by submitting a bid in an auction, okay? HUD.gov states how these auctions are first offered on an exclusive priority basis to owner-occupant purchasers, right? And again, that's people who are gonna live there, right? Now, don't let, the word auction scare you. For the most part, this process is just signing paperwork like you would any other offer, right? Your realtor's the one doing the extra work in terms of submitting an offer on the auction. And, honestly, there are plenty of realtors who just won't work with foreclosures because it is a lot of extra work. Now, speaking of which, a HUD home can't be bought with just any realtor. Now, they have to be certified. In order to qualify to sell HUD homes, real estate brokers must complete and sign specific forms. Now, another completely different type of foreclosure are the ones that were originally VA loans, okay? VA foreclosed homes are also backed by the government, but they're guaranteed by the Veterans Administration, not HUD. The Department of Veteran Affairs acquires properties as a result of termination on VA guaranteed loans. And these properties are marked for sale through vendor resource management. So now, if you're making an offer on a foreclosure, prepare for a response on the offer to take a much longer time, okay? Because often they have to go through several chains of command, several desks, who each have to sign off on it before any decision can be made. Ready to move on? Okay, that was a lot of information. Yep, and there's still more. Step number 4 is the option period. So your offer's been accepted. Woohoo! But don't celebrate for too long because the clock is ticking. You'll often have a built-in inspection period that you don't get to choose, and it's common for it to be like 10 days. The foreclosing bank will generally turn the utilities on for you for the inspection, so you can get a better idea of what is and isn't working. But most of the time, you'll be looking at an as-is sale, and the inspection really is just for your information. According to Bankrate, most banks will allow inspections, but they won't provide any assistance in repairs. So basically, the option period here is very similar to what you'd see with a traditional sale, except they usually won't offer any negotiations or repairs. Okay, now remember how I said a lot of times they won't accept an option fee at all? Basically, if you get into this inspection period and it's just way more repairs than you can handle and you just don't want the house, all you're out at this point is the cost for the inspection. So in terms of having to offer, kind of in the blind, just keep in mind that what you're putting at risk at this point is the cost of having the home inspected. Okay, step number 5, finishing things up. Well, once you're out of the option period, the rest of the sale is just like any other sale because, if you think about it, it depends on you as the buyer. Once you get to this point, most sellers really don't do a whole lot after the option period. The ball's in the buyer's court. So, you're going to work with your lender and then you're going to move towards closing. Now, the only possible difference here is that the owner may charge a penalty by the day if you don't close on time. Okay, step number 6, the last step. After closing, it's pretty common for the sellers to have winterized the house, so be really careful when you're turning the utilities back on. Also, you'll often see that the sellers will have changed the lock, so be ready for that as well. And that's how you buy a foreclosure. You made it. Now, let's take a look at how many Dallas homes we're talking about that are in foreclosure, right? Let's check out how many opportunities are waiting for you now that you know how all of this works. Well, according to Attom Data Solutions, lenders starting the foreclosure process are up 169% from 2021. And in Texas, foreclosures rose by 187.3% in the first 6 months of 2021 to the first half of 2022. So the foreclosure rate of 1 in every 1,005 homes ranks as the 19th highest in the nation. Last month, Attom updated their report and said those states that saw the greatest number of foreclosure starts in January 2023 included Texas with 2,136 foreclosure starts. Okay, so what's in store for 2023? Well, Darren Blomquist describes how a growing backlog of pandemic-era properties that are no longer mitigated by foreclosure protection law could drive foreclosures in the year ahead. He explains that while pandemic protections were highly successful, there's still a small backlog of distressed properties that is gradually growing. This backlog represents one source of likely foreclosure volume in 2023. Now, Black Knight states that as of August 2022, 488,000 mortgages were considered unprotected, meaning they're either delinquent or they're in foreclosure and they're not covered by forbearance or loss mitigation programs. Now, Darren Blomquist explains that another problem is the growing risk of an economic downturn that pushes more homeowners into distress. He continues saying if the U.S. unemployment rises to 6% in 2023, an estimated 56,000 additional foreclosures would be completed next year. So now basically, if things continue on as they are right now, we can expect to see around 175,000 foreclosures this year. However, Blomquist states that this number could swell by nearly 60% to 278,000 if the country slips into recession. Now, remember when I explained how HUD is the governing entity that forecloses on FHA homes? Well, you can expect a lot of these upcoming foreclosures we've been talking about to come through either HUD or VA. Now, why is that? Because FHA loans require a very low down payment and VA loans don't require a down payment at all, right? And that's bad news when home values have dropped. Black Knight explains that more than 25% of 2022 FHA and VA mortgage holders have now dipped into negative equity, okay, with 80% having less than 10% equity. Well, when these buyers get into trouble, it's going to mean foreclosure because they don't have the equity to sell their homes. This could be a huge problem for Dallas, and I did a whole video exploring this whole crisis of underwater homes that you can view right here. In the meantime, Wendy out.